Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this faculty information session to talk about the upcoming semester and new COVID protocols in returning to campus. My name is Ryan Huff. I'm the Communications Director here on the Denver campus, and thank you for joining us. We have a great panel assembled today to talk a little bit about these protocols and also answer your questions. I would encourage you at any time during this session to use the Q&A function and submit your questions. Some of you have already submitted your questions ahead of time, and we plan to answer those during this session. I'd like to tell you who is on our panel today. We have Chris Puckett, who is the Managing Associate University Counsel and the co-chair of the Lynx Together Task Force. Gregory Gibson, the Senior Director for Building Maintenance and Operations with Facility Management. Ted Geisler, the Assistant Director for the Office of Information Technology. Rich Allen, the Associate Dean for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. And our new Provost, Constancio Nakuma. And that is who will kick things off. So Provost Nakuma, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody. I am sorry that we are not able to be face-to-face and talking in person, but this is where we are in terms of just continuing to cope with a situation that is less than ideal. So I want to start off by just thanking everybody. I know you went through a period that I also went through in my former institution, which challenged all of us to stretch and just think outside the box. And what I learned from the experience is that faculty stepped up more than we could ever expect. Our staff came through in ways that just showed the caliber of the people we work with. And so I want to take this moment, even though this is a new environment. I did an interview with you, and I came here because I know exactly the sort of people that I will be working with, and I'm so honored to be among you today. And so as we start to prepare for this semester, there are a few points I'll be highlighting when I get a chance again to talk. But I just wanted to say thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for keeping this university afloat during a period that was really trying. And we'll be counting on you to do the same thing. And we have a lot to cover. So I will be back again to express a few, to make a few comments. So I will turn over the podium back to Ryan to kick it off. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Provost. Next up is Chris Puckett to talk about some protocols.
Good afternoon. I have to echo what Provost Nakuma talked about as far as thanking you all. And I mean this in all sincerity. It's an honor and opportunity to talk to faculty in particular who have, I know, worked so hard and stretched so hard over the last year to meet and exceed what has been just an incredibly hard situation. And I think what I'm here to do is talk to you a little bit about how we hope and we believe, and we think this is data-based, that we are in a good place as a campus to continue to return to in-person activities. Many of you know that we have now implemented a mask requirement. What that means is that everybody wears a mask indoors. Outdoors, we were at a ribbon cutting this afternoon for the City Heights dorm, and it was interesting because there were some people with and some people without outdoors. And I think it's going to be a little bit interesting, but what was clear is everybody going indoors had to absolutely wear a mask. That's going to continue into the fall, at least to begin with. We plan on evaluating that particular requirement on a monthly basis at a minimum. We continue to look at the case rates that are going on around us in the city, the availability of vaccines for those who are under 12. I anticipate we're hearing that the next tranche will be from 5 to 12. Maybe, I'm crossing my fingers to hear about it as soon as late September, that those who are in that range might be able to be vaccinated. We're also paying very close attention to the hospitalization rates. And I think ultimately where we are going to end up is, I think, our strength, but what we continue to watch is the vaccination rates amongst our community. That's faculty, staff, and students. For those of you who don't know, who haven't been tracking the numbers that we publish every week, or virtually every week, about 87% of our students currently are vaccinated. We've got some more work to do to clean up some data and do some other things, but we're in a really good space. And we continue to gather more information and encourage students to get vaccinated. That's amazing. The only school I saw today, actually Colorado College, looked like it might be higher, but they think they have 800 students. So it's amazing what our students have done. Amongst our faculty and staff right now, we're right about 97%. We're still waiting for some numbers to come in, so that could fluctuate a little bit, but I do anticipate it still being relatively high. So frankly, that is what we know about the COVID vaccine or COVID pandemic, and what we know about the Delta variant is vaccine is the way to go. And that is thankfully what I anticipate and I see our community doing. And we're very excited about that. For those of you who haven't seen it or are asking questions, we do have a vaccine exemption process. And there is a form that we regularly send out every week. And if you look at the Lynx Together newsletter from yesterday, we're going to ask you to go ahead and fill that out to identify whether you're vaccinated or not, and or whether you request and receive an exemption. For those individuals who are unvaccinated on our campus for whatever reason, we're going to require them to wear masks all the time. We're going to require them to be tested on at least a weekly basis, and also do daily health attestations for at least the time being. The governor has come out saying that he wants unvaccinated folks to be tested twice a week. We continue to dialogue with Denver Public Health and Colorado Department of Public Health to learn a little bit more about their basis for that and whether that's something we'll have to implement or not for our unvaccinated folks on campus. But like I said, the truth is we're actually in a good spot when it comes to vaccination. I think we're in a good spot when it comes to mask wearing, because as you all know, across the entire Auraria enterprise, CCD, Metro, and Auraria are all requiring that individuals wear masks. I think one of the biggest questions I continue to get is who's going to enforce that? It's going to have multiple layers. And let me start with this. We are hiring and continue to hire campus ambassadors who will be students who stand at the doors and be on different places on campus. And frankly, during the middle of the day, they'll probably be wandering around. But those first couple of days, they're going to be stationed at doors. And what they're going to do is they're going to remind people to wear their mask, and they're going to be handing out masks. And they're going to be giving people generalized support on, okay, what are the expectations? What do I need to do? That kind of thing. We're going to continue that through the semester. And frankly, one of the things we found over the last year with these campus ambassadors is they do a really great job of dialoguing with people, talking with them, understanding, and reminding people that people need to be masked. And when there are problems, they get reported. As far as in a classroom goes, we are providing some information. You can see it on the website as we did last year. Mask wearing is an issue of whether somebody is disruptive in the classroom. And if somebody is disruptive in the classroom, our Dean of Students has put together a number of things, ways to address that and ultimately deal with it. And frankly, if somebody is going to refuse to wear a mask, they're going to be asked to leave. And we have got steps to address that as well. And if someone continues to or has repeated behavior in that space or doesn't do what they need to be doing if we know they're unvaccinated, then we'll take the more serious steps that may include not allowing them on campus or doing other things as well. And thankfully, we have very few circumstances or situations where we've had to address that. Over the last year, what we saw was people are generally compliant, and even visitors to our campus were compliant. And very quickly, they realized that people were going to ask them to mask or do something different if they needed to. So that's where I think we're going to be able to come together in this space. It's going to require all of us to step up and to be kind and be patient with one another. But it also, I think, is the best way for us to be able to move forward. I saw one question about mask wearing in classes. One of the things that we have said is that if you can stay 10 feet away from someone, and this would include like a whole classroom, then you may be able to be masked less. In most classrooms, it may be possible. Seminar rooms and small classrooms, I don't think it's likely because we're not going to come out and give you a measuring stick, but some institutions have said, well, the first 2 rows have to be empty. If that gets to your 10 to 15 feet, then okay. But that's where we are at the moment. And I look forward to answering more questions. And once again, I really do thank you for all your sacrifice and willingness to stick in it. And I thank you for your willingness to come to campus. And what I can tell you based on even today, and Ryan and I talked about it earlier, there are students who want engagement, and there are students on campus and they are hungry to talk to people, even if it's outside with a mask on. and they want to engage. So I think it's going to be an exciting time. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Next up is Greg Gibson with Facilities Management, and obviously there have been a lot of questions about HVAC systems and cleaning and such, and was hoping you could address some of that.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate the invitation, and I also appreciate the opportunity to speak in a little bit of detail about some of the measures your highly excited facilities maintenance staff is performing here at the University campus to protect the students, staff, and faculty in the community. So I'll try and give you some detail, but I'll try not to make it too boring. So you should know that our facilities management team has set the amount of ventilation in the buildings to meet an ASHRAE standard. That specific standard is ASHRAE 62.1-2019, which advises that we should be inspecting the air handling systems to allow that the ventilation, exhaust, mixed air, outside air, and the outside air dampers are all operating to allow fresh air into the building. So our facilities management team has also calculated the current mixture, the appropriate mixture of outside air, and made those adjustments according to this ASHRAE guideline, as well as being in coordination with the Environmental Protection Agency and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So our facilities team is able to satisfy these standards by performing routine preventive maintenance inspections and audits of building equipment. We do this to ensure and verify that air handling units and outside air control dampers are functioning properly, all controls are working correctly per the appropriate specifications and guidelines from the original equipment manufacturer. Our facilities team has increased the amount of ventilation in the buildings to beyond the standard needed for the ASHRAE 62.1 standard, which also has allowed us to take it up to the maximum that the individual HVAC system units can handle. Our facilities team has opened up all outside air dampers to all air handling units in each building on campus to their max position. We perform maintenance checks, and we do this on a triennial basis to make sure that at regular intervals, the outside air control dampers are functioning and everything is working the way it should be. Just because we checked it a month ago doesn't mean it's not working today. Our facilities team monitors the ventilation systems for our CU Denver facilities through our building automation system, which also allows us to monitor system function, and if there's an alarm needed, we'll see it there and we'll be able to respond on the app. Some of the more mundane details that we do is we keep the air handler, cooling coils, condensate fans, traps, drains clean and functional. We perform regular preventive maintenance in these regards. We have upgraded all of our standard air filters to at least a MERV 13 or higher filter, which means we have replaced a bunch of existing HEPA filters that were in place before COVID started. MERV is a standard that means minimum efficiency reporting value. So a MERV 13 filter is, a MERV 13 to MERV 16 filter is considered to provide hospital level air quality. All of the filters on the CU Denver campus are at least MERV 13, depending upon the age of the air handling unit. And because we have these filters and their high filtration efficiency, these MERV filters are tremendously effective at removing particles that may carry viruses. So, excuse me. Some of the additional steps that we've taken to mitigate risks, the facilities management building performance team has audited the air handlers in each of our buildings, and all for 3 times a year. We did it the first time, essentially at the beginning of fall semester 2020. We did it again in spring semester 2021, and we just completed the exercise to prepare for the return of students June 30th, 2021 of this year. So we check all of our building automation systems. We do our routine preventive maintenance. We have staff that is dedicated in caring in the building, and we're paying close attention to these types of issues to ensure that we are that our mechanical systems are operating with the optimum efficiency. As far as some of the custodial provisions that we're performing, we're not changing anything from the COVID standard of custodial cleaning. What does that mean? That means in common area spaces, there will be general wipe down, there'll be cleanup, spill cleanup, there'll be vacuuming at entrances and exits and restrooms and the circulation areas. A circulation area would be identified as like an elevator, a stairwell, or a corridor. And the common areas, which is typically identified as lounging or seating areas. And we'll be fogging the common areas with the lounging and seating areas on a weekly basis. We'll also be wiping down the high touch points, such as push plates and door handles, push buttons, and hard surface finishes. In the classrooms and computer labs and the instructional labs, That's going to be the responsibility of the individual users and occupants. However, facilities will be happy to provide any of those supplies needed. And you can have those supplies provided and delivered to you by contacting our facilities dispatch operation 303-315-7777. Also, our plan is to fog classrooms on a daily basis. As far as offices go, if it's also going to be for personal offices, the same responsibility for the individual user and occupant. However, you should know that as of the week of June 1st, we had our custodial service provider go through all of the buildings to do a deep cleaning to remove anything that might have been found. So we found that people had to leave in such a hurry that they left a mess on some occasion, but that drew vermin and pests on some occasions. We cleaned all of that up. If there's an issue that you're having in your personal office, please give us a call at our facilities dispatch, and we'll come by and we'll give you a deep clean. However, after that's taken place, it's going to be your responsibility for the cleaning of your office space. However, the general spaces that we will address will include reception areas, conference rooms, copy mail rooms, kitchenettes, and offices. So if there's any questions that we have, we have a very dedicated and caring staff that's ready to serve, and we can answer any questions you have by contacting our facilities dispatch operation 303-315-7777. Ryan, that's all I have at this point in time, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Gregory. I'm sure we'll have some questions at the end, but I appreciate your information. At this point, I want to send it to Ted Geisler with the Office of Information Technology to talk about classroom technology.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm going to pull up my screen here. So my name is Ted Geisler, and I'm the Assistant Director of Technology Support Services. I hope everyone can see my PowerPoint here, but I'm excited today to talk to you about classroom technology in preparation for this coming semester. So we have a lot to cover in a short period of time, but what we'll go over first is some important considerations that we believe all of you should be aware of. A few general recommendations heading into this semester. We'll be talking about lecture capture and recording systems. And then we will review the support and resources available to help you be successful in your use of classroom technology this fall. So a few important things to consider, and really the prevailing message is that classroom AV technology varies across classrooms, across campus. And that is partly a function of funding. We don't have the funding to upgrade every single classroom on campus every year. And so we are strategic and iterative in our approach to updating the classroom technology. And so as a result, some classrooms have better projectors or different adapters or microphone or speaker systems than others. And that's just a reality that we want everyone in the faculty community to be aware of. And that's also a function of the fact that there are different entities across campus that own different rooms and are responsible for the support of those rooms. And sometimes that is the case even within a single building. So for example, the North Classroom has rooms that are owned and operated by OIT, CU Denver, and rooms that are owned and operated by AHEC. So based on these considerations, we recommend first, if possible, that you visit the rooms you're going to be teaching in ahead of time and scope out the technology. Fire up the computer, turn on the projector, run the PowerPoint presentation, run the Zoom meeting, any applications or files you need, and make sure it works and that you're going to have a smooth experience when school starts. And if you run into any issues, we'll talk about your options there, which leads to our next recommendation, which is to familiarize yourself with OIT resources for classroom technology. And we will talk a little bit more in a few minutes about the open labs, personalized classroom tutorials, and other resources that are available to help you be successful. And then lastly, we recommend that you familiarize yourself with the IT support resources that are local to your school or college. We believe that in collaborating with those groups and with the people who are embedded in different schools and colleges, and that we're able to provide more comprehensive service when we're all working together. So we just want to make sure everyone's aware of the range of resources that are available to you. One technology that I want to talk to you all about in particular is lecture capture. And this has become especially important in the last 18 months during the pandemic. And that is basically using the tools in the room to record your lectures. Most commonly, it's just a recording that is later uploaded into Canvas for students who were unable to attend in person. There are some faculty that are choosing to stream, and I put that in quotes because I don't know if that's the technical term for it, but basically running a Zoom meeting during their class so that they could have students attend from a remote stance. But Zoom can be used for both the recording and the quote unquote streaming functionality. And many rooms that are owned and operated by CU and by OIT are outfitted with Zoom camera systems to record lectures. And in addition, this last summer through the Lynx Together committee, we purchased an additional 22 cameras, which can be scheduled through EMS at no charge. And these are really useful for classrooms that are taking place in shared spaces, such as like the West Classroom or the Arts Building or Plaza or King Center. Because we aren't able to go in there and change any of the fixtures in the classrooms, these rentable packs are really helpful to giving you access to these resources that could be really critical to your teaching practices and be flexible in that way. So here's a quick look at the two camera systems that are available. Many of the rooms that we operate as OIT already have the large system in place. And those are ideal for class sizes 20 or more. But we also have an additional dozen of these to rent out. And there's also a smaller system, which as you can see is just one component. It's a camera and a microphone. And our guidelines are that is ideal for 20 or fewer people because the field of the camera lens is a little more narrow, and there aren't multiple microphones. And so it's just better for a smaller space. So in terms of support, we are encouraging everyone to be proactive and get in ahead of time. Familiarize yourself with your room, with your space, and the technology in that space. We are offering what we're calling classroom support open labs, and they begin next week on the 17th and 18th, and they're in two different locations in North Classroom and Student Commons. And there's no registration required. You just drop in. You can work with an AV expert to ask any sort of questions you have. They can demo how to use the technology and different equipment in the classroom. You could try your hand at it, and basically just developing that confidence and comfortability, like as you step into the classroom this fall. And if none of these times work for you, you can call the classroom support help desk, and they can provide a one-on-one tutorial for you specific to your room. If you have any questions, those are a little more tailored in their approach. So both of those options are available, and we encourage you to take advantage. If you are in a classroom and do encounter a problem, there are a number of resources to consider. If there's anything going on with the AV in the classroom, please call our AV support help desk. The numbers there, the hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then if you're in an AHEC classroom, there's another number to call. And in each classroom on the podium at the front of the room, there will be a sticker that should indicate which number to call. So that should be evident based on the room you're in. And I also threw in here that if you're having Canvas issues, we have a Canvas helpline. And we also have an IT service desk which is 724-4357 or 4HELP. And they help with everything else IT related, including Wi-Fi or any services or products like that. Lastly, I just wanted to again reiterate that many schools and colleges have IT support professionals dedicated to those areas, and just encourage you to be aware of those resources in your department, whether or not they would be solving problems for you or working with us as a liaison to resolve problems or fulfill requests. We really think that we really appreciate being able to collaborate with this community and making sure that we are serving you and your needs as you teach. And I had a Q&A thing here, but I think we're waiting till the end. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate that. Next to speak is Rich Allen, Associate Dean with the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, to talk about teaching and learning.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I want to share just a couple of thoughts around course modes, pedagogy practices, and policies related to some questions that we've received, and then some resources for you. I'll try to be brief so that we can get to more Q&A. So first is modes. It was our intention to return to largely in-person offerings, and we've, as a campus, I think, been successful in getting there. The majority of the seats that we're offering to our students this semester are in courses that have some sort of on-campus component that's in-person or hybrid. And I want to share the reminder that if you have questions about those 4 modes on in-person, hybrid, remote, or online, we continue to provide the course format guide that you can find on the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning website. And I think some of these links will appear in the chat, and we can get them to you in other ways as well. So please do consult that course guide. There's some important information in it about how those modes should run. In particular, hybrid courses need to have some on-campus component, but that information is available to you in that document. Related to teaching practices and policies to support the work that you're doing in the classroom, we've had lots of conversation about this, and a lot of good questions have come in. So I want to start that off by saying that what we've learned, we think, over the past year or so, and this is supported by education research and other resources, is that the approaches that work best for us and for our students are courses that are designed to be flexible, that are predictable, and that offer clear communication with our students. And additionally, classes that are attentive to being inclusive, to student identity, that support student sense of belonging, and that support a growth mindset are effective classes. We have resources available for you. I know that many of you are engaged in teaching practices that align very nicely with those principles. We have resources available as well. If you want to read more, learn more, do more, that you can find on the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning website. There's a great document on flexibility, predictability, and communication in course design. And as a campus, we're also part of a larger national project called the Student Experience Project. And through that project, we're helping to develop resources that we can use as faculty in our classrooms as we think about student identity, sense of belonging, and growth mindset. And we'll share a link with you to practices library that's available through that resource as well. So I hope you'll take advantage of those. Some of the questions then that have come in have been about things like, does in-person mean in-person? Do I have to record my class? Questions like that. So for starters, that does in-person mean in-person? This is a yes and. Many of these are yes ands. In-person can mean in-person. If you are designing your course thinking about those principles of flexibility, predictability, clear communication, we know you're going to find a way to do that that will support students and support the importance of them being in the classroom when they can be there. The most important thing is we want students and faculty to be able to make healthy, safe choices as they move through the semester. And we can help them and ourselves with that as we think about our course design. Do I have to record my class? No, and it may be a good idea. I think many faculty are already doing that. They're finding ways to use Zoom and other technology to use that kind of an approach to supporting students who may need to miss a class. And then finally, I just want to reiterate this other issue about mask wearing. It's not optional in the classrooms, but for the circumstances that Chris shared. So please do know that you are supported in enforcing that. And through the Dean of Students Office, we have a great document about the process for doing that. And we'll share that document as well. I think it's very supportive. And you know, with ambassadors and the like, we're hoping this is not going to be a major issue for us, but if it is, that support is there for you. And so finally, just really briefly, if you've not been on campus yet, you may not have seen the new City Heights building and the Learning Commons attached to it. I want to mention that there was a ribbon cutting ceremony there today. We got to tour it. It's an amazing space. And I, in particular, want to point out the Learning Commons. The Learning Commons is really shaping up to be a one-stop shop for academic support for students and for faculty. So for students, the Writing Center, the Math and Statistics Resource Center, the Learning Resource Center, the Learning Assistance Program, all of these programs have space in this beautiful new building. And in addition, UC Dolly, the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, the Center for Faculty Development, all of these offices are co-located on a floor in that building. There's even landing space for faculty to gather and have community. It's an amazing space. Please take advantage of it. It's a great place to go. We'll put up links as well. We know it's particularly important these days to attend to student mental health and wellness. Lynx Central has a great website that lists all of the resources we have on campus to support student mental health and wellness. And want to just put in a plug also for participating in early action. You get emails about that through the semester. It's another way that we can help support a culture of care for our students. And I think last semester we had the highest, or in the spring, the highest participation rates we've ever had. And we can beat them. So please do use that. It's one way we can gather university resources to help support our students and to help you in your mission. And then finally, if you don't have them bookmarked, the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning website and the Office of Information Technology website are go-to places for quick answers. They have information on their website. You can schedule one-on-one consultations and get support directly from them. And it's excellent support. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Rich, and thank you to Lindsay for putting those links in the chat to the Center for Excellence at Teaching and Learning and many other websites. We will get to your questions in just a moment, but just wanted to turn it back to Provost Nakuma for a few final words before we do some Q&A.
Well, thank you, everybody, again. That's been a lot of talking to you, and I know information is kind of hard to absorb when you have so much of it coming at you at once. If you will remember nothing, but I would like for you to take away a few principles that I think will guide how you interact, not only with your students, but also among ourselves. The first principle is that we have to be alive and well in order to perform at our best. And so whatever you do, keep that in mind. Your health and your safety and the health and safety of your students and all the people you interact with, that should come first. And so if you feel like you're not well enough to come to class, nobody is asking you to risk your life and come and, with the potential of infecting other people. That will not be the best way to do anything. And so please, we count on you to be as responsible as we know you are. And so make sure you are healthy. And the next thing that I want to highlight is that Flexibility is a word that we've heard over and over, and the need to communicate is also important. So make sure your students know at any time what is happening, because sometimes the stress is compounded just by the uncertainty. And so the more clearly you communicate with your students and your supervisor also, the better off everybody will be. So keep in mind, the quality of communication there. I wanted to talk about you as faculty and, your professional expectations while you are attending to students. You are also attending to yourself in terms of your professional development. And I just want to make sure you understand that we're going to work with you as well, applying the same principles of flexibility and communicating with you clearly so that you know where we stand with respect to your professional growth. If you're on the tenure track, and we know that this situation, which is always evolving, is going to slow you down in terms of your productivity in terms of research. We are willing to understand that, and we hope you're going to treat your students with the same level of understanding as well, that they too are struggling, and some will probably experience death in the family and may not be able to reach out to you immediately to explain themselves. If you have to give anything, please give the benefit of the doubt to your students, and understand that they may be going through situations that just go beyond them, and they are people, and they should enjoy your compassion, and please treat them with the same level of respect as we all expect to be treated. So that's a key principle here. When we talk of a university that works for all, that has to include you, include your students, and everybody that we are dealing with. And so please keep those principles in mind. And we know you will see the person before you see the role or the function. That's very important for all of us to cope during this time. If you need your tenure clock to be set because you are not making enough progress, have communication with your department chair, with whoever is supervising you. Let's keep the communication open. And together, I'm sure we will create this environment that we all feel a sense of belonging in. So thank you, and thank you for all the professionalism that you've displayed and will continue to display. I am extremely excited to be here, and I look forward to getting to meet as many of you as this situation will allow for us to. I think most of us thrive in the person-to-person mode. Unfortunately, we have to do this Zoom, but that's what we have, and we're going to make the most of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Nakuma. We know you have many questions, so we'll try to answer as many as possible. The first one I'll send to Gregory Gibson, and there's questions on parking. What does that look like if you want to park in a garage along Lawrence Street, or perhaps explore Auraria options? And then I'll ask you another question, another HVAC question after that.
And so let's deal with the parking first, okay? So in Lawrence Street Center, that's reserved parking. After I get done talking, I'll put the online request form in there for parking. So you can, sorry, the email address, so you can put your name on a waiting list if you want to park in the reserved spot in Lawrence Street Center. So that's a 24-hour reserved slot that's available to you there. For the CU Denver and the School of Business parking garages, those are kind of sort of first come, first served with no restriction. And they also allow for tandem parking in those two garages. Tandem parking is an example of when you and your friend arrange, I'll park here and you park here, and then we can go there, and then you kind of share the two spaces that are there. And then those two spaces are for the two of you. But you have to arrange a tandem parking outside of us. You have to come to a tandem parking already figured out. We're also bringing in a new part-time rate for parking, which allows up to 10 days of parking per month. That's obviously at a reduced rate. that's something new that we're trying out this year because it also reflects the flexible working environment that we have available for the staff and faculty. As far as RTD goes, I believe the RTD Echo Passes, there was an issue with the RTD Echo Pass as we were finishing off the school year. I believe Todd Haggerty was able to get that resolved. So I believe that there is now an Echo Pass available for faculty and professional staff and classified staff, and that Echo Pass is available from July 1st to December 31st. And there's a 6 month rate there. I believe the rate is $135. I believe that's the case.
Well, let's jump in here real quick. It's free.
It's free. Well,
It's
even
free.
better than $135.
So I think I just saw a question from somebody about at what point does it trigger, or what point are part-time folks eligible for that free Echo Pass? I don't know. We'll need to look into that. I do know that the Echo Pass is free, unless, Ryan, you know, on the lecturer part-time. Do you know what the answer is on that?
I don't know,
I don't
but
know.
I
I'm looking
will
at the
put a link
resources
in the chat.
Yeah, we're looking at the resources, and so we may need to follow up with you on that. But yes, the EcoPass is free for employees through December, and in an effort of sustainability, I have to thank you all, because I think we had close to 800 people already sign up for an EcoPass, which is nearly a third of our employees. So that's actually amazing. But yes, it is free through December. They're actually in the process of renegotiating how it's going to happen in the future. So, and meaning in January, there's also a big equity study that the Department of Transportation is requiring of RTD in their rates altogether, because there's been some questions and some issues. So maybe in the next 6 months, probably in the next year, but either way, we will be getting an Echo Pass for the spring again. Whether or not the university will be able to pay for it, or employees will need to pay for it, I couldn't tell you right now. So stay tuned on that, but Echo Pass is good, and we'll get some answers to you on the part-time lecturer faculty distinction there.
And you can pick up that Echo Pass at the AHEC Parking Transportation Services, which is essentially in the 7th Street garage. So
I put some more information. Go ahead.
For those of us who park on campus, which is, I know, a lot of faculty, our passes were canceled. Faculty's passes were canceled unless you taught this summer. So you have to get a new pass. That begins on August 15th, on Monday. So if you want to reestablish a pass for the other lots, Juniper, Maple, the garage, etc., that opens on August 15th.
Thank you, Colleen. Greg, one more question for you. There was a question in the chat earlier. You talked about CU Denver's HVAC system and filters and such. Can you tell us, are there similar procedures for the rest of the Auraria campus buildings?
That's a great question. So when I was speaking earlier, I was speaking specifically of the LSC building, of the CU Denver building, School of Business building, Wellness Center building, and the Student Commons building. For Auraria and AHEC, I've had a lot of dialogue with my contemporaries in AHEC, and they have very closely mirrored the practices that we put in place for the CU Denver facilities, to include the routine audit of building performance and all that they could do with changing out the filters and the upgrade of filters and the optimization of equipment to maximize outside air. So they have done what they have been able to do to follow what we have done for our buildings for the Auraria buildings. Should you have a question, this is if you have a question in the CU Denver building, please feel free to fill out a work order, and they're happy to do a detailed dive into a specific area. After we have done this exercise of mirroring the practices, we had several specific visits where they had in areas of Tivoli and King Center where they had to go back and they wanted to do some additional work, and they've been very responsive and they've been very supportive in making sure that their mechanical systems are operating in an optimum manner. So I would say that they're working hard to make sure that they're doing the best they can, just as we are.
Thank you, Greg. Chris, I'm going to send a few your way. I know you answered this in the chat, but if you can just give a brief response on the travel policy and what people should expect.
Oh, travel policy. So at the moment, what we do expect is that when you travel, well, number one, I would just say there is no restriction on travel at the moment, meaning we don't have anything that's a hard and fast do not go. There are some areas in the world still to this day, and that still would require a high level approval, and those approvals are coming from Elena Jones. And I know those still come through. But I don't believe we've done anything necessarily that's restricted people in the COVID space. As far as the current restrictions go, what we do ask is that you follow the restrictions that are currently in place in Denver and or our campus to whatever location you end up in. So for example, if we're masking here, we'd ask you to mask where you're going. Now, does that mean everywhere outside? No, of course not. But in general, that's what we're going to ask. I'm going to specifically, I mean, obviously your faculty, so you get this, but, you know, obviously with students, that's really important. You know, that's really critical if we do travel with students. I know that's starting to happen. That would be the expectation. But I would also say Stephanie Santarico, who's in the back behind the scenes here, is going to take a look at this and make some recommendations perhaps on how we might change up our travel policy. So what I'd say is that's where we are today, but we have couple more weeks before the semester starts, and that might change a little bit. So, yep.
Thank you, Chris. Some questions just about wearing masks, how close people can get together during group activities. One of the questions is, as long as students keep their masks on, can we do close-in group activities?
The answer at this point is yes. That is absolutely what we are following from the CDC, as well as other guidance that, you know, because we've got such a high rate of vaccination and mask wearing from both individuals, the speaker and the listener, frankly, that those provide a significant level of protection, especially for those who are vaccinated. So yes, you know, obviously, you know, we could go down a whole bunny trail, and I'm an attorney, I do this sometimes, you know, of the what ifs, but yeah, absolutely. That's the hope, is that people are comfortable enough to engage in small group settings.
Well, let's go down that rabbit hole of a what if, because we have a what if question here.
Okay.
Can my class, if it's as of today, it'll be in person, but can we switch it to Zoom if the COVID situation gets worse? Can a faculty member make that decision on their own? Or if, you know, how dire do things need to get if we start moving classes or all classes to remote?
You know, that's a great question, Ryan, and I wish I had absolute an answer for you. I would tell you this, that I know Provost Nakuma wants to jump in here, and I see that. I think there'll be a lot of things on the table as we move forward. So I'll defer to him.
Yeah. So that's, as I said, it's an evolving situation, and we'll be monitoring the level of severity. But before you switch the modality, please, let's respect two principles here, that the parents who sent their children to us are expecting that we will engage with those children to the maximum possible so that the children are learning. So let's keep that principle in mind. But again, your safety is critical, and so is the safety of the students. So that's, I think, the best approximation we can have right now. So don't just switch it because you're afraid. Please consider all of these aspects of our engagement with the people that we've promised to serve and whose learning we've made a commitment to. Consult with your supervisor, if anything at all, before you go changing the modality all by yourself.
Thank you. There's a related question. I believe you've mostly answered it, but it says, if I poll my students anonymously, so there's no pressure and they all agree, could we all agree for my class to meet remotely?
What I know is usually there's a power distance between professor and student. And even though the polling may be anonymous, and if it is known to be coming from the professor, there is implicit in it some level of pressure that students kind of feel. So even though you may not be intending it to be that message, just coming from you may be suggestive of, yeah, I'm willing to consider, you know, changing the modality. And so I don't know what the reason will be for wanting to do that polling, But please be aware that there is some covert pressure that students feel when these kinds of questions come upon them from the professor.
Thank you. This question came in the chat, and thank you to Lindsay for answering it. But for any of those who didn't see this, Chris, do you want to talk just about the 10-foot rule? And here's the question: does the renewed mask mandate come with the renewal of the 6-foot distancing and reduced classroom sizes?
No, it doesn't. So we, what science has demonstrated is the masking works, and we have not gone to distancing. I think we continue to, and Provost Nakuma is at the forefront of this, continue to have lots of conversations that if, what are the next steps that we might have to take at some point in the future? But absolutely not. We are not, the classrooms have returned to their normal capacities. One of the things that I know Gregory Gibson's team is doing in our side of the street, and I know Rob Byers over at AHAC is doing, is making sure all the classrooms are set to the previous capacities or set back to the way they should have been, removing stickers and whatnot and chairs and all the rest. So that's going to happen by the first day of classes. So that's the plan.
Next question, either for Chris or Provost Nakuma. If a faculty member gets infected by COVID, what should their steps be? Should they cancel their classes?
If you get infected, first, the responsible thing is not to infect others. So please care about yourself, but also about the people that you're working with. I think that's the basic principle. If there is no way to deliver your lesson, either remotely by using the technology that's possible to deliver with, and you need to cancel, at least let your department chair know so that if there is an alternative to just canceling, they will enact that. In other words, do whatever is possible not to cancel, but if you have to cancel, then let the communication be clear enough that students are not left wondering what's happening. Okay, so that's what I would say as and I know that's probably what you have in mind when you ask the question as well, but this will be the process that I would recommend.
Question from Florian, you can go hybrid, and if the students all come remotely, then is it time to switch to remote learning as the modality?
If one student consistently shows up in class and your class is listed as in-person, please respect that student and deliver in person. And here is the reason. We learn differently, and there are just some people who don't function well in the remote modality. And so those who switch out voluntarily because they feel like they can function remotely, and if that's part of the flexibility we're talking about, please consider that the person who does not learn well remotely also still deserves the best instruction possible. And it may look weird, sitting with one person in the classroom and everybody else remotely, but understand that that person showed up because that's the best mode for them. And that this is part of, we're talking access, right, to the best quality instruction you can get. And so accessibility is the reason that we as professors will commit to the modality that we agree to deliver in, and just, let's stick to it.
Some of the questions we received via email were about how to enforce the mask mandate. And so a faculty member sees somebody not wearing a mask, asks politely, hopefully that resolves it. But if it doesn't resolve it, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, Chris, but can you walk through the various steps and when it would go to Dean of Students or how you report it from there?
And Rich can jump in here too, because I know, and Lindsay, actually, both of them put a thing here. So Rich, do you want to jump in on that one?
Sure. Yeah, I think that we'll put the link in the chat. I think we'll put it there again to the document that will walk you through how to do that. So, and I think it's really clear and really helpful. So there's 4 bullets here. It says when students are found out of compliance, request compliance. If students choose not to comply, you can ask them to leave the room for non-compliance and/or classroom disruption. And if they do, you should still report that incident to student conduct and community standards for documentation and action with the students. In what we hope will be an event that doesn't happen where a student still refuses to comply. The last bullet here is a recommendation to call Auraria Police Department for assistance at 303-556-5000. So that information is in this document for you. So that's the process. Not wearing a mask in class is not an option with the exceptions that Chris described earlier. So that's the level of expectation that you can set, and that's the level of support you can expect to receive if we do have an event that gets to that space.
And just to speak to that, we have had over the last year a handful of situations, but I would say that the process that Rich laid out has been very successful. And frankly, there's only been a handful of individuals, and they frankly don't need to be on our campus. And there's only been, I think, 1 student that I'm aware of who refused. And it's like, but she was at least upfront about it. And we said, well, we're going to continue to say this is the expectation. Well, you might need to go someplace else. And she chose to do that. So I would just say that we fortunately have some experience with this over the last year. We are going to have the student ambassadors around. I'm not looking for them to be our heavies, but their part of their job is going to be able to assist us to remind us all what it is we want to do. And I'm going to jump in real quick because somebody asked a question. I think it was Colleen asked a question about making sure that we have whether we have tech services after hours. That one needs some follow-up. Because that was actually something that from a Lynx Together team standpoint, we actually had some conversations about this fall. So I will follow up with Ted, Colleen, I'll make sure we get that information out there. And Ryan, I just don't want to forget, are we going to make this recording posted or public someplace?
We will. So give us a day or two and we will put it on the Lynx Together website, and we will include it in next week's newsletter as well. Well, we're just about out of time. Provost Nakuma, Chris, do you have any final words before we go?
Welcome back, faculty. I am eagerly looking forward to meeting you in person. And I know our students are waiting to meet you as well. Your role as mentors is something that we are looking forward to helping you perform. So as we start this semester, there's challenge, but we do have some experience behind us now. And so we're going to navigate this together. And I just want to say, I am extremely excited to be here. And I'm looking forward to being as supportive of you as a provost can be. We are in this together, and I can't wait to meet with you. And we'll be working on our strategic plan as well. And so there's going to be a lot that we'll be talking about. And I think there is going to be excitement starting off this fall semester, irrespective of where we are in terms of this COVID landscape. So welcome back. And I'm looking forward to meeting all of you.
Thank you, Provost. We're happy to have you. And want to thank all the panelists and everybody behind the scenes who have answered questions. And again, a reminder, we'll have this video published very soon. And thank you, everyone, for your time, and hope you have a great fall semester. Bye-bye.